I want to bring into the conversation Eric Mandel, founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network, as well as senior editor for security at the Jerusalem Report. He's joining us all the way from Florida. Eric, a big night this evening, but let's start with the big question as to what exactly this all means. Was this a symbolic response to show Iran did something, albeit weaker than many people were expecting? Is this still below a threshold that would counter a United States response?
I think they threaded a needle so far, assuming no American personnel are injured and there's no casualties. Then I think that this, if you will, orchestrated symbolic kabuki dance of retaliation, giving the Iranians some face-saving ability, but also allowing a de-escalation process to go on. I believe from the American point of view, de-escalation is preferred by President Trump. From the Iranian point of view, after face-saving, it's the regime remaining, not falling. And it's been reported that the Israelis are running out of target packages, which is actually a little hard to believe with the size of Iran, that they, in another few days, may be satisfied with the damage that they've done to Iran. So if you put all those pieces together, you start saying, well, maybe we have an off-ramp and we go to negotiations. I will say from an American point of view, the idea of this precedent of giving Iran, if you will, the last word, attacking a U.S. base, whether it's Qatar, I don't know if it's officially been reported in Iraq, from Iranian territory doesn't sit well, I think, with many people in the administration. And so we'll have to see where it goes. But President Trump's instincts are to take a win here and to see if he can de-escalate as soon as possible.
Eric, also, as far as this heads up, this advanced warning that Iran gave to the base in Qatar, if there is a heads up, how can forces, American forces in the region prepare? How do they ready for a missile attack like this on American bases in the Gulf?
Well, from what I understand, there were many hours warnings for personnel to be in places where they'd be protected, for American aircraft to leave, go to safer locations. And so this was basically something, and I understand, was orchestrated, at least for the Qatari part, Qatar talking to Iran and Qatar then talking to the United States. Very similar. Qatar is a frenemy of the United States. They're really an ally of Iran, and they were an ally of Hamas. And they were supposedly this mediator, but they are on the bad side of things. And I think when all of this dies down, the idea that people shouldn't lose the perspective that Qatar is problematic in and of themselves with jihadists that are both Shiite and Sunni.
Do you think there could be some repercussions for Qatar? On the one hand, they did have the update in advance from Iran, but they also gave that update to the United States so they could prepare. So as you're talking, Qatar is really playing both sides here, it seems.
Yeah, I don't believe, it wasn't like the Iranians did not want the Qataris to tell the United States to be prepared for this and to minimize the risk to American personnel. And so I think this is Qatar just, again, doing what they do very well, which is act as a friend to all, but really is one of the biggest problems. It's the great financier of the Sunni Muslim Brotherhood, but yet shares the world's largest gas field with the jihadist Shiite Twelvers of the supreme leader. So it's a complex place, but Qatar is a place next to deal with to create regional stability. So that should not be forgotten at this point of time when de-escalation will be everybody's focus.
Well, Eric, Iran still says that they're preparing to retaliate for any further U.S. response. As far as not only American bases, but also the United States is closely monitoring the Strait of Hormuz. How likely is it that Iran could also have some other different military tactics up its sleeves and could have some sort of another retaliation in the region?
I think the Iranians would be incredibly foolish if they want their regime to survive to mine the Straits of Hormuz or use their fast boats to attack or disrupt shipping there. America has been planning for the closing of the Straits of Hormuz for decades. it would be just a matter of time before it was reopened. And that is the number one thing that could happen that would cause American strikes throughout Iran. President Trump will not stand for that. And the Iranians know that. So they'll be signing their own death warrant if they mine the Straits of Hormuz. So I'd be very surprised.
All right, Eric Mandel giving us the latest on a very dramatic development here in the Middle East. Thank you.
My pleasure.